Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Good to have you here as always. Today I want to talk to you about racist music festivals, and one in particular. Now, it was one that I actually organized, and it was one that caused the most controversy of any racist music festival in Australia and most likely the world. So it's going to be an interesting one today, and I'm going to tell you all about it, all the nuts and the bolts and what happened and why. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about these music festivals and what goes on inside them and behind the scenes, because that's something that's really not talked about. So I'm going to. So grab yourself a coffee or your popcorn or whatever. Today I'm on the Pepsis because, you know, as Mike said,
just give me a Pepsi, please. All I want is a Pepsi, and shit won't get into me.
Let's get into it. So firstly, let's talk about these music festivals. Many of you probably won't even know that these exist, that these go on around the world, but trust me, they do. They're very underground, and they do happen in most areas where there are racist skinheads or whatever. In America, they have ones like Hammerfest, and you know, there's all these different ones. In Australia, there are very few of them. In fact, I'd never heard of them. Even when I first met these guys, they were talking about this event called ISD. ISD, what the heck is that? All that popped into mind was improvised sexual device. But it turns out that it was a memorial for Ian Stewart Donaldson, who is lead singer of a really terrible band, Screwdriver, who also formed Blood and Honor and Combat 18. So that was my first introduction to the Australian scene, pretty much as a collective. Now these events, everyone came together, pretty much everyone from Australia, you know, all the racists, all the nationalists, all the skinheads, they would all get together, and there'd be about 80 to 100 of them. It wasn't huge, it was never big numbers. So the first one I went to was in 2009. I went to the ISD Memorial in Melbourne, and I thought, okay, cool, you know, this is how I get to network and meet everyone and make friends, and I did. And some of the bands that were playing were very well known in this, including a band called Fortress. Now, Fortress were huge in the white power music scene, and I became friends with the lead singer of Fortress. You know, I went to a couple more ISDs over the next couple of years, and there was a couple other smaller events. So there was one in Adelaide that also tried to do one in Perth on Anzac Day. The media got wind of that, and it got shut down very, very quickly. Thankfully, totally disrespectful. I wasn't even going to attend because that's just not, you know, that's not how you do things. So I went to a couple more of these events. I was like, oh, you know, they're cool. They're small, little dingy gigs, some really bad music. And then, you know, we can do better than this, yeah. I had been living on the Gold Coast, so I thought, hey, this is a great place to hold one of these events, right? It's huge, it's a glitter strip, there's so much to do, you know, there's plenty of stuff, people can come and have fun. Because the thing that really bugged me was all these events were down south, especially in Melbourne, and I hate the cold, especially, you know, no here, it's like, oh man, why not? And I started organising this event, and it came up with the name of Hammered Music Festival. And I started organising it pretty early because I had the intention of bringing a band from overseas. I was like, man, come on, you know, there are some good bands in this scene. You know, if you took away all the politics and the beliefs and everything, musically, that'd be really good, you know, that would be really hugely popular. So that, right, I'll get one of these bands over, we'll get a couple of local bands together, and we'll have a venue, and we'll have, you know, some bar girls and raffles, and we'll make it a really good event. And I did. The way things work, especially with our events, because they were underground, you know, we had to keep it that way. So if you weren't known to us, you actually had to email us, and you had to attend a meet and greet. It's basically where we'd all get together, you know, at a bar or whatever, and you come down and you meet us and we vet you, you know, if we want to know who you are. No reporters, no police or anything like that, you know, we can sniff you out as easy as anything. So then a couple of weeks before the event, one of my friends calls me in a panic and is like, oh my gosh, check out Channel 10 News. And I flicked on the TV, and lo and behold, they were doing a piece on our event. I went, oh, okay, this could be good for some publicity. Yeah, it blew up. It really blew up. It was nuts. You know, all the media channels were jumping on it. You know, newspaper were all over it. You know, this is the first article that came out about it. And then a couple of days later, you know, I get a knock on my door and there's 6 Australian federal police officers standing there. And they're like, hello, Mr. Brad, we want to talk to you about this event. And you're going to tell us where it is, who's coming, and everything about it. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Not a chance. You know, you can't hold an event like this in the public and, you know, not inform us. I'm like, well, first thing is, it's a private event on private property. We're not charging door entry and we're not selling alcohol. I knew my way around a few things. I've been with the MC for a while and I knew how they operated their events. Get the way around a few different laws, you know, about selling alcohol and all that kind of stuff. So the AFP were like, okay, well, you know, we would like to know for your safety. I'm like, look, you know, when you've got 100 skinhead, we'll be okay by ourselves. We have our own security. In fact, we have licensed security at the event. So there won't be any problems. The only way we're going to have problems is if you let the public know where it's at. So over the next couple of weeks, things got really crazy. The AFP were contacting me almost daily and just really harassing me they wanted to know the location. Man, there's no way I was going to tell them anything about it. You know, the media were the same. I was getting emails like every bloody minute. My inbox was literally moving the entire time, you know. And there were a lot of people who were like, hey, we didn't even know this event was happening, you know, and we're racialists or whatever, and we want to come and check out the event. I'm like, okay, cool. We had a couple of meet and greets beforehand. We did meet some people who ended up attending the event. Even a couple of days before the event, a counter-protest was organized in Southport. You know, people got together because they wanted to shut down big time. There was huge public outcry. Even the Gold Coast mayor was like, he was really upset about it, but he also said there's nothing we can do about it. We can't stop it. They're not doing anything illegal. Even on the Friday night before the event, we always got together and would go find a nice restaurant and sit down and have a good meal. And I took them to my favorite restaurant, which was Ashmore Steak and Seafood. You know, when you've got 60 odd skinheads at a big steak and seafood place, you know, people are going to pay attention. In fact, someone contacted the Courier Mail, and the next day, the front page of the Courier Mail was steak with a side of hate. And it was just nuts. And of course, you know, there was all these media lies. Guys were wearing t-shirts with big swastikas on them. No one was. We're all low key. We're trying to just have a nice dinner and hang out with each other. When it came to the event went off without a hitch. You know, it was a great night. Everyone had fun. Music was really bad, as always. So the next year, we organised the next event, and again, it was on the Gold Coast. Everything had been downplayed massively. You know, all there was a little piece in the local newspaper, so nothing significant. And I got a knock on my door a couple of days before the event, and it was a local police officer. I'm like, oh. And I actually said to him, oh man, this is really disappointing. And he's like, what? And he's like, I've been downgraded. Last year I got visited by AFP. This year I'm getting a local beat cop. Oh, he wasn't too happy. He was threatening me with, oh, you know, we're gonna have you under surveillance. I'm like, oh, look, you already have anyway, so whatever, just go for it. I'm not gonna tell you where it is. I'm not gonna tell you anything about it because I don't have to. So the following year, we decided that we were gonna move the event to Brisbane. I'd moved to Brisbane. We thought there's no point in doing it on the Gold Coast. Logistically, it was too hard. Started organising it again, and we started advertising it. Now, when we advertised, we only ever advertised in our forum. We never advertised publicly. We never put posters up or handed out flyers, which the media actually said we did. We never did anything like that. It was always through our own forums or through email or through word of mouth. We kept it very close-knit. So many people were trying to always find information about them. It was relentless always. So when it came to this one in Brisbane, well, that's when things just kind of went nuts with the media and with the controversy. So many media channels in Australia doing articles about it, and those articles were getting shared and reposted and reused all around the world. I saw it online in India and Israel and America. You know, they're all doing articles on this about this, how this racist festival was allowed to happen in Australia. You know, because Australia has always had this beautiful image. Unbeknownst to them, it's actually one of the most racist countries I've ever lived in. It even got to the point where a local member of parliament, Rob Messenger, who's a Sunshine Coast MP, decided he really wanted to shut this down, and he started a petition, got about 9,000 signatures. He presented it to the Queensland Parliament to have, you know, these events banned, made illegal. You know, anything to do with, you know, Nazis or racism had to be banned. And of course, they couldn't. The crazy thing is because we weren't doing anything in the public, we're allowed to do whatever to a certain degree. The arts are protected in Australia, as I believe it is most parts of the world. So you can't talk about racist stuff, but you can sing about it. It's kind of crazy. It got really bad with this event, and I'd already started thinking about leaving the gang. You know, I wanted out of that life anyway. And so when I started getting a lot of pressure, especially at my workplace, I had Antifa pretending to be a journalist, calling the studio, wanting to do an interview with me, you know, because I'm the organizer of this event. Of course, I was really low key, you know, I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, mate, bugger off kind of deal. Then I got visited by ASIO about the event, and he was like, you're going to tell us where this is happening, otherwise we'll subpoena you. And I'm like, you do whatever, pal, you know, I'm still never ever going to tell you anything about this. But then I went, this is too much. This is just, I've had enough. And so that's when I quit. And I quit 3 months before the event was supposed to happen. The event still went ahead as far as I know. I don't know anything about it because I pretty much cut all ties with everyone. But as far as I know, the events did continue. I believe there was one in New South Wales the next year, and then they held one in 2019, I believe, in Melbourne. You know, there was a lot of media attention for that one, and I believe they actually had a petition with 28,000 signatures on that to have them shut down. I looked at all this and went, wow, I created that. Why did I create that? For me, it was about brotherhood and connection with people. And I saw these events as a great way to connect with different people. The scene in Australia is very, very small. Like, in fact, in Queensland, there were only 3 members of the gang that I was with. We had a couple of prospects, and that was about it. And we all lived so far apart, we never got together. So these events, everyone came together. And for me, it was about forming these bonds. As I've said many times in my videos before, I was there to make connections with people. After all that, I look back on those events and I think, well, okay, for me, it was just about getting all these people together. It's never about, you know, promoting, you know, racial beliefs or anything like that. I wasn't interested in any of that kind of stuff. As I've said all along, you know, I found it very difficult to be racist, you know, and I did it through humor. And I even did with these events as well. You know, when I promoted it, it was like, come on down for a weekend of fun, sun, and racial music. Of course, the media really ran with that quote. Oh my gosh. So there you go. There's a little bit of insight into these events and, you know, what happens and how they're organized and, you know, the ones that I created. Thank you so much for tuning in again. It's always great to have you here and listening to my stories. I much appreciate it. And hey, if you want to keep listening, of course, give us a big like, subscribe down below if you haven't already, and hit that little bell to get notified. You can also support this channel by buying us a coffee or a smoothie or a juice or a Pepsi. Michael, appreciate it.
All I wanted was a Pepsi, just one Pepsi, and she was giving to me, just a Pepsi.
All the links are down below, and I also have merchandise available, all that good stuff. I'll see you on the channel Sunday night, 7 p.m, Mr. Brad Raven on YouTube. Have a great day, everyone. And yeah, go listen to some good music and go support some really good events and bands who are worthy of that. Peace out, y'all.